Good morning, Cornerstone. This is Aaron and Ramona, and we have the opportunity to share with you chapter 3 on Pastor Joey's book, Prophetic Journey.
That's right, guys. We hope everybody's doing good, staying safe, and staying out of trouble. I need to get a haircut really bad. I think everybody does, but hey, we're going to work with what we got, right? But hey, anyway, chapter 3 of Pastor Joy's book, Prophetic Journey, is called The Power of a Pardon. And it's a great chapter on mercy and forgiveness and the power that is in all of that that we can experience. And so the chapter starts out in 1 Samuel chapter 26, verses 5 through 26. And it's the story of Saul and David, where Saul has been pursuing David over the river and through the woods, trying to get David and kill him. And Saul's army has stopped for the day, and they've made an encampment, and they are going to bed. And David sneaks into the camp with one of his soldiers named Abishai. And they find Saul asleep on the ground next to his spear and a jug. And David has the opportunity right there to exact retribution, justice in his name against Saul. And at that point, he decides to give him mercy. And his soldier Abishai is trying to convince him not to, saying, hey, this is it, man. We've been running. We've been doing all this stuff. Here's your opportunity to end it all right here and right now. Do it. He says he wants David to take Saul's life. And at that point, David turns to his servant and says, who am I to lay a hand on someone that God has anointed?
What a revelation that, David had, not to kill him and have God take care of the situation.
That's right. He said, let God take care of him. I'm not going to be the one to do that. So what does he want to do? He takes the spear, he takes the jug that's laying there next to Saul on the ground, and they sneak back out. God had put the whole army under a deep sleep and was able to let David come in and out in that situation. And so later on, David is like across the canyon away from the army, and he yells at one of Saul's soldiers, Abner, saying, hey, you guys just messed up. I was there. I could have taken your king's life. I took his spear. I took his jug. You guys messed up. You guys need to do a better job, kind of making fun of him. And Saul overhears this, and he recognizes David's voice. And he recognizes that David was there and could have taken his life, but was shown mercy. Like David spared his life. And with that, Saul returned the favor. He talked back to David, and David told him, why are you pursuing me? If I've done really anything truly wrong, let God take care of it. Let God deal with me. And at that point, Saul ended up getting a revelation that, hey, I'm going to let David take his role, do what he needs to do. I'm not going to pursue him anymore. And he tells David that. He said, hey, I'm not going to pursue you anymore. You're good. And when you guys read in that chapter, this all happened, and this is so cool that Saul, it says that Saul is in the wilderness of Ziph. And Ziph means the embattlement, like the place of conflict, the place of fighting. And in that place, Saul received mercy, in a place of embattlement. And how many times are we like in a situation where we're just so upset and we're fighting and we're just having to go through all that stuff, but at the same time, he received mercy and all that. And so that was so cool that now Saul was able to give that mercy back to David. And that was a really cool part of the book that I saw, that the power of forgiveness and how it can shift back and forth. And so it was a really good part of the book. And so the chapter goes on and talks about like knowledge and knowing what's going on. And it's called, it was the title of that part of the chapter was The Devil's Devices. And in 2 Corinthians, it talks about being ignorant, not to be ignorant of what the devil's trying to do for us. And so many times the devil tries to convince us to not do the right thing, to not forgive. He wants us to stay ignorant. He wants us to stay bound to not knowing what's right and what's the good thing to do. In Jude, it says the people that follow the devil will be in darkness, will be in ignorance. They won't know. We need to be in knowledge. We need to be in the light. We need to be, where we know what we're supposed to be doing. And so that was something that, if you look back in the Bible, when Jesus was being crucified and Stephen when he was being killed, they both had the knowledge of, hey, forgive them for they know not what they do. So they had to forgive someone in their own ignorance. Like Like they didn't know that they were being offensive or what they're doing, but we still have to forgive them. So the people that may not even know that they're offending us and that they're hurting us, they might not even know that they're doing it. So we have to have that mercy and that grace all the time to be able to show that to them. And that was one of the things that was in this chapter that really struck us. Like they might not even know that they're offending us or hurting us. So we have to be the ones that forgive. And so we have the first topic you guys wanted to discuss in your life group was there ever a time in your life when you were in the dark about something that God had for you or wanted for you? And if you were, at what point did you realize, what point did you get the revelation, or were you brought into the light about what God wanted for you in your life and what he wanted for you? Like, how did you figure that out? What revelation did you get for that? And so that was kind of a cool discussion point you guys can have. And so the chapter goes on to another part that's called Amazing Grace. And this was a really cool part that I really liked. It really talks about, if I can receive grace, why can't I give grace? And so Pastor Joey has preached before about the song Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Well, Pastor Joey's like, well, that's not how the song should go. The song should go, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like you. You once were lost, but now were found. You were blind, but now you see. What he's trying to say is God has forgiven me for all the things that I've done. God has forgiven me everything I've done in the past, everything I'm going to do in the future. God has already forgiven me and died for my sins. So Amazing grace is for you. It's not for me. Or if I received it, I should be able to give it to you, is what that's trying to say. And that's, when in Matthew 18, when the story of the servant that owed the king a lot of money, there was a king that, the servant owed him, and this day would be like millions of dollars, like this huge debt. And he came in and the king's like, I'm ready to get my payment. And the servant says, I don't have your money. I lost it all. I don't have anything to pay you back with. And so the king's like, well, you're going to go to jail now. And you're going to have to pay it back one way or another. And the guy threw himself to the ground and begged for mercy from the king. And the king ended up showing him mercy and forgave him of his debt. Like, he forgave him for everything that he owed the king. And so what the king did is just forgave his debt. Like, it's been paid. Like, you don't have to pay me back ever. And so that same servant left being forgiven of all these debts. Well, that same servant went to another servant that owed him money and said, hey, I need you to give me my $100, that $100 that he was owed. And that guy says, I don't have the $100. I can't pay you. Well, that servant ended up having that guy arrested and thrown in jail for that $100. And so he didn't show that same grace that he was shown. And so when the king found out what he had done, he had that guy arrested then, the original guy, and put him in jail. And said, well, if you're not going to show grace, then why would I show you grace? And put him in jail. And so that really goes to show, guys, that if we received it, we need to be willing to give it. Amen. And how much have we received that, we wouldn't give it. And so the second talking point we wanted you guys to discuss was, did you ever have an opportunity to show or to pass judgment on someone, but you chose mercy instead? Yeah. And then how did that make you feel? I know in my life, being able to show mercy to someone to forgive someone, it's so important. It's so freeing in your heart that you can actually, it just lightens your burdens. And I'm one that's, quick to forgive. And so it does really feel good.
And when I read this chapter, a story came to mind, a personal one, but it's not that I couldn't forgive, but what happens is that the enemy can try to come in and place unforgiveness and plant that seed of unforgiveness into your heart, and it can turn into bitterness. And, people are going to disappoint you, all the time. And, whether it be your spouse, your, sibling, parent. And, if Jesus has, he's forgiven us so much, who are we not to forgive? Because when we allow God to take that and and we make the choice to forgive, then he can work everything out for our good. Like in Peter asked Jesus in Matthew 18, he asked Jesus, how many times should we forgive? 7? And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. So we constantly have to make that choice when the enemy tries to come in and place those thoughts of, reminders of, hey, remember what they did, remember, what was said.
And that is something that the devil will do. It'll try to just harden your heart and just try to get you to dwell on that. Because when you dwell on the negative, it'll just eat you up. That's why you have to be able to forgive that in your heart.
So when we allow God to be the God of our tight place, then he can come in and we can walk in freedom, and we can walk in love, and we can walk in mercy, because he's forgiven us so much, and we can give those burdens to him, and he can take care of it. Those hurts and disappointments will come, but if we allow God to fix it, we can walk in that freedom.
That's right. And it is liberating. It's freeing, and it's liberating knowing that you don't have to carry in that weight that, man, whenever I see that person, I'm going to have to be mad at them. And that is not who we are. That's not who we are as people, because we've been forgiven. We have been given so much grace and so much mercy, that we're going to be out there. We're going to be given, dirty looks and just keeping hold of things that really don't need to be held on to. And let me tell you guys, forgiveness is amazing and it can free you, but the person you're forgiving, they can choose to receive it or not. Like they can wonder or they don't, and that's okay with me, as long as I know and in my heart with God that we've forgiven them. That's what counts, and that's what matters. Whether that person receives it or not, or whether they do with that forgiveness or don't, that's not on me either. I want to forgive them and say, hey, I'm sorry, or I forgive you for what happened. We're good. And they can say like, well, I wasn't sorry to begin with. And that's fine. They don't have to be, as long as you opened up, you've removed that yoke from your shoulders. You've removed that burden from your life. And that's the important thing, that you are going to be straight with God, and that you can be, more Christian, more Christ-like, to be able to forgive. And that's so important. Amen. And so we have another discussion point for you guys. It says, are you currently holding any unforgiveness to anyone? Are you holding maybe some judgment over somebody, or, that you have the opportunity to do some forgiving? And so are you ready to do that? And that was one of our last discussion points if you guys want to discuss in your life groups. Speaking of that, guys, if you haven't got tied into a life group, please look into getting one. We have a Church Center app that you guys can get into. There's groups in there that you guys can get connected with. And so it's so important that as Christians we get with like-minded people that we can come together and get plugged in with and be together with. And so as we wrap this up, guys, there were some PowerPoints at the end of the chapter I want to go over really quick. It says, we must be willing to show mercy to others because God has already shown us mercy. And that's what we talked about, really hit that hard about. We received it, so now we have to give it. The enemy occupies the darkness, the place of ignorance. But when the light shines into the darkness, we can overcome by the power of revelation. And we talked about that too, guys. Don't be ignorant. Don't be in that place of darkness. Be in a place of light and knowledge and knowing that we can have that revelation and know what we need to have in our lives. And the last one is the power of a pardon is restorative. David was restored because of his forgiveness to Saul, and Saul restored him to where he needed to be. And that is so important, that it can be so freeing for us. It can be just a restoration of our lives. And so we wanted to just talk to you guys and say, hey, on Sundays at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. we do Sunday morning services on Facebook and YouTube. Please tune in, join in, put some comments in there, put some hearts, put some likes, comment in there. Let us know where you guys are listening from. In the comments, we also have links for prayer requests and things along those lines, guys. Share those posts. Start some watch parties. Get the word out that there's some good news out there. That also happens on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. So please tune in to those as well. If you haven't already got a copy of Pastor Joy's book, that handsome guy right there. Look at that handsome guy, that Pastor Joy right there. Hey,
he wrote a book, right?
He wrote a book, The Prophetic Journey, The God of Your Tight Place. Guys, there's a link in the description on where you can go to get a copy of Pastor Joy's book. It's a great book. We really enjoyed doing this, guys. We love putting this together for you guys. This has been really fun for us. We love you. We miss you. We can't wait to hug your necks, you guys. and get back to some church.
Miss you guys.
It's a little bit different times, but we're here for you. We love you, and we all hope you take care. God bless.
God bless you.